Welcome to the Hollywood Scholar. I'm Jed Morgan, and I've been a staunch opposer to Marvel's Phase 4 for some time now, but there was a time when I was as much a Marvel stan as anyone currently is. I loved everything that came out from Marvel's first three phases. I ate it up. I loved Marvel to such a strong degree that it overwhelmed parts of my personality, as many stans today allow it to do to them. Now, that is not a mentality that I am proud of. It is not a stage in my life that I am proud of, but I do still remember the love that came with it, and it's something that I will always cherish. And I still believe that a lot of those early Phase 3 movies are incredibly well-made movies, but there needs to be a set of objective observation when it comes to movies. Otherwise, the quality will dip in such a way that Phase 4 did. And a lot of people are recognizing this and the changes that Marvel as a whole versus just Phase 4 has done to Hollywood as a whole, especially Quentin Tarantino. Now, I'm not a huge fan of his works either. I really haven't enjoyed many of them besides the ending of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I love that last 20 minutes of that movie. But he has had some incredible comments in tandem with Martin Scorsese about Marvel and the effect it's had on Hollywood. Everyone knows Scorsese's famous comments about calling Marvel more an amusement park than cinema. Well, the definitions are a bit unclear and might not be wholly accurate. The sentimentality evident behind his statement is one that I can really respect and get behind. They're not really very intelligent works of art sometimes, but they are enjoyable, like an amusement park ride. So I still agree with Scorsese, but Tarantino, he believes that the worst eras in Hollywood history are the 50s, the 80s, and currently. While I strongly disagree about the 80s, I believe that might have been the best era for Hollywood. I do enjoy his statement that the current era of Hollywood is one of the worst in its entirety, if not the worst. And apparently that has caused some problems with the most insufferable actor in all of Hollywood currently, Simu Liu. Now, we have this article here from Banding Comments, just puts it all right together for us, and it says, Shang-Chi star Simu Liu dismisses Tarantino and Scorsese as racist gatekeepers for the criticism of the MCU. The golden age of Hollywood was white as hell. Now, in any of the comments that I quoted from either of men, did they mention race? Did they mention diversity, inclusion, politics, anything like that? No, they didn't. And I'll be reading some of their quotes word for word in a moment here. And yeah, spoiler alert, they don't mention race. He brings it into it. He assumes it's a personal attack on him for being Chinese, which is ridiculous. They don't say anything about that. They're talking about the culture of Hollywood and the writing quality thereof. That has nothing to do with your race, you egotistical maniac. But let's get into these insane comments of Simu Liu and the comments by Tarantino specifically, which inspired them. Going down quite a bit, it starts with a interview from a few weeks ago, a month ago, with Tarantino at the Los Angeles Times, where he said, you have to be a hired hand on those things. I'm not a hired hand. I'm not looking for a job. And that's a very good mentality, or a very true statement when it comes to Marvel properties. We've seen that with specifically Marvel's Phase 4 more than the previous phases, that these directors, they don't actually have much say over the property, and they don't actually have that much experience. Hired hands is a very good way of putting it. For example, Black Widow, we found out that the action sequences were already written and approved and in production before the director came on board. And she was very upset about that, so she left, and there was a new director hired to take the place and just kind of iron out the mess that was left for her, because they got the action scenes done before the script. So she just had to do the best she could, and she just had to roll over and accept that this movie was going to be a mess. That is something that we've seen with several of the other movies of Marvel's Phase 4 as well. They're not actually there to create the story, to create the narrative, to build the movie from the ground up. They're there just to be a figurehead more than anything else. They're getting cast for diversity's sake in several instances. Specifically with the Eternals director, she was definitely cast because her talent is not quite the talent necessary for a film like Marvel. I haven't seen Nomadland or whatever her previous movie was, but Nomadland does not equate, the talent required to make Nomadland does not equate into a superhero flick. She was just there for diversity's sake. Now, going on, he clarifies his comments with a more recent interview with Deadline, where he says, part of the Marvelization of Hollywood is that you have all these actors who have become famous playing these characters, but they're not movie stars. And that is a phenomenon that we have definitely seen in recent years since the burgeoning Marvel Cinematic Universe dominated the scene in Hollywood. Back in the day, the trailers were kind of hard to see, clips were hard to see. You just kind of got posters and you found out a famous person was in a movie. If you knew Schwarzenegger was in a movie, you went to go see it. Anthony Mackie has had similar comments to these in the past. I wonder if Simu Liu would call those comments racist coming from a black man. I don't know, just something interesting to think about there. But that is 100% a thing that we've seen. There are very few movie stars left. Tom Cruise is the primary one left among them. And it's a strange phenomenon where the character comes before the actor. And maybe that's why there's such a great argument for recasting, specifically in the case of Black Panther, because the actors aren't bigger than their roles anymore, like they used to be. Just an interesting phenomenon. He continues, right, Captain America is a star, or Thor is a star. I mean, I'm not the first person to say it. I think that's been said a zillion times, but, but it's like, it's a lot of you-knows. It's these franchises characters that become the star. And we've seen that with Chris Evans specifically. The one he's referring to there is Captain America. I love Chris Evans' Captain America. He's my favorite Avenger, par none. And his portrayal is beautiful to me. I love it so implicitly. But when it comes to any other movie that he's in, I'm not particularly interested in going to see it. Like, I didn't see Lightyear, and a lot of other people didn't as well because that movie bombed at the box office. Tim Allen, as Buzz Lightyear, was the star of that movie if it had been done correctly, not Chris Evans as Lightyear. So it's an interesting phenomena that he portrays very, very concisely, and other people have said this as well. But for some reason, these comments that don't once mention race, don't once mention diversity, just merely talk about the change in what it means to be a movie star, were taken personally by Simu Liu. And he puts out this massive tweet about gatekeeping, and to start off with, gatekeeping is not a term that actually makes sense in a lot of instances in fandom. It's like, oh, you want this character to remain right, you're gatekeeping. It's like, I'm a fan, I don't get a say, so I literally cannot gatekeep. So it's just an insane idea that these people have that is completely unfounded in any semblance of reality. But his tweet says, if only the gatekeepers to movie stardom came from Tarantino and Scorsese, I would never have had the opportunity to lead a 40 million plus movie. That is gross 40 million. But with the massive budget involved, that movie made like $10. Like barely, if it made anything at all. So yeah, good for you. And he's not saying anything about keeping you out. Good for you. Fight the power against nobody, because that's not what he said. Nothing in what Tarantino said remotely referenced his race, but Simu Liu took it personally, and that is narcissism to the 10th degree. I'm in awe of their filmmaking genius. They are transcendent auteurs, but they don't get to point their noses at me or anyone. They didn't point it directly at you. He's not saying that Chris Evans or Simu Liu are bad actors necessarily. That's not what he's saying. He's saying that the marketing pull is for characters now, not for actors. That is not a personal attack. That is not saying you're not good enough, even though I'd argue that. It is not anything like that. It's merely saying the culture has changed. Interesting phenomenon. It's not about his own opinions. It's about his observations. Why is Simu Liu taking this so personally? Well, because, as Ryan from RK Outpost puts it, he is the new and improved version of Brie Larson. He is the most insufferable actor in Hollywood because he takes everything like this personally and creates a narrative around it and always refers back to his race before anything else. No one mentioned his race, but immediately he brought it up in a follow-up tweet where he said, no movie studio is ever or will ever be perfect, but I'm proud to work with one that has made sustained effort to improve diversity on screen by creating heroes that empower and inspire people of all communities everywhere. Again, he brings race into it. The Tarantino didn't say, oh, because of the diversity of Marvel, everything sucks now, which is an argument to be made from a certain perspective. He didn't say that at all, though. He just said, culture's changing, characters over actors. That's simple. You can even have an argument that the character's race is still a player if you wanted to go at it from that perspective. But Simu Liu assumes the worst. And that's insane. This is certifiable behavior. And he continues, I love the golden age, but it was white as hell. Race is not a quantifiable bastion of quality. It is irrelevant when it comes to the quality of the movie. Race does not add or subtract quality unless it is used as a weaponization effect against the audience. It's the story, it's the content of the actual narrative involved and the quality of it that makes a good film. So perhaps the golden age was white as hell, but at least it was well written. And you brought race into this. You did. So you get to reap the rewards of that when it comes to a quality argument, which is where Tarantino was starting things from. And so he, braced into for loser internet trolls and he had this whole spiel when Shang-Chi came out that is just ridiculous and been covered so many times. But this is Hollywood nut job to the 9th degree, and this is narcissism exemplified in its purest form. And I 100% agree with the comments made by Tarantino and Anthony Mackie, and the sentiment that I believe is behind the comments of Scorsese, whereas the actual comments are a little bit clouded. I agree with them. Simu Liu is just a narcissist who wants to make everything about himself and everything about his race, further deepening any racial divides that actually still do exist. And that's all that these Hollywood actors do anymore, is stuff as insane as this man has done. But anyway, that's all I have for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Anon.
Hey, yo, are you feeling what I'm doing up in here? Oh, I know you are. Do you miss all the good, compelling stories that we used to get back in Hollywood that they ain't putting down no more? Oh, I know you missing it. So check out my book series, Odyssey of a Phoenix, a mythological epic about philosophy, morality, and modern-day mental illness issues, baby. Book 1, Down in Flames. Book 2, Apocalypse Then. These are currently on sale. What are you waiting for? Get your hands on them. And we got Book 3, Kill the Dark, is coming down the pipeline. Just wait for all the good stuff that's dropping. You ain't gonna be disappointed, fam.